Welcome to the CEO series. Our guest today is Dr. Suresh Devnani, better known as the Happy Doctor. Our topic today is happiness in the era of COVID, linking meaning, connection, and contribution. Okay, welcome to the CEO series. Our guest today, prominent guest today, is Dr. Suresh Devnani. This is personal for me because Dr. Suresh is a very good friend of mine, and I think last time we were together was in Mumbai back in February. That seems like an eternity ago. So our topic today is happiness in the era of COVID, linking meaning, connections, and contributions. We're going to have an interesting discussion. Dr. Suresh's kind of moniker is called the Happy Doctor. And so with the times we're going through, people are stressed out from so many things. I think we couldn't have a more apropos guest for our discussion today. So I'd like to lead off with, I read some background on you, and this was a story I didn't know about, that you had lost a fortune, which I thought was just mind-boggling, and you were able to kind of turn it around mentally. Just the thought of reading that sentence was enough for me. How did that set up the trajectory from that point to where you are now? So just kind of walk us through that.
After losing about 23 million US, I was on a soul-searching journey to find out why did I even lose that kind of money. Was it self-greed, ego, or even beyond that, maybe how society is inbuilt, that we all about generating more money than ever before and then being successful through money. This whole journey took me on this great adventure. It lasted for about 5 years before I found myself becoming the Happy Doctor.
Okay.
So I think everybody should go on a soul-searching journey whenever they are ready. But I feel the best time to go on these kind of journeys is when we have failed drastically and we seek answers that are beyond our own imagination, our own will. Because I feel the only way we could actually become that person that we truly are supposed to be is to make these difficult questions, answer these difficult questions and find our true selves. And that's what took me 5 years as well. And right now I travel the world speaking to companies and individuals wherever possible to empower them to seek deeper sense, a deeper meaning, to find their true calling, because we all eventually will burn out. And that's how it is. And I feel once you are burned out, it might be just too late. It's better being prepared that there will be changes taking place, which might not be in our hands or in control. So it's being agile or even resilient. That's the big word right now in the whole C-suite kind of thing, is how to become more resilient as a company, as an individual, as a leader. And that's what I'm focused on right now, is how to create great leaders that are actually resilient and who are open to learning new ideas and empowering their whole teams to grow at that kind of level.
You mentioned how that came about from that failure and what you learned from that. So I think it's safe to say that you learn from failure than you do from success.
See, what happens is we have to fail in some way because we all are pushed to the ground once in a life, if not twice. In fact, I've been pushed to the bottom 3-4 times. That's why I have come through these different levels of understanding. But eventually we will be tested. It could be loss of a loved one, losing a job right now, like what's happening in COVID-19, many people losing jobs. So we are being pushed to the ground. And if we do not understand why this took place, we will have a tough time to lift ourselves up back to where we could stand again. Because it's so easy to fall, but how do we lift ourselves? And sometimes we need a supportive family or supportive friends or whoever that is there to empower us. So that's what I am. For those who don't have a family that could uplift them, I'm there for them. And I feel more now than ever before, because this COVID-19 is a long-term effect. It's not something we expected to get cured in 3 or 6 months. Some people are saying 2 years, some are saying 5 years. So how resilient are we to manage this situation for 5 years? I know a lot of people are going to the mental asylum because eventually if you lose your job that took care of your beautiful home, traveling for some of us, like Ron and you, we live on traveling, but now guess what? We are
Well, we
office.
used to live on it.
Now, guess what? We're working from home, or office is a hotel room right now, like I am. So how sane can we stay in this kind of mindset? Are we actually reflecting every morning to see that we are still being blessed, that we are healthy, we are not sick, and what can we do to change the world, even from home or whatever? So, like, this is an open platform here where people can actually share their ideas, insights. And thank you, Ron, for even creating this program, because now more than ever, leaders need ideas too, because there's only so much we know, and learning from other leaders makes us even better.
You mentioned reflection point, taking time to reflect. I think lots of times today that's missing for people because everyone's looking for the instant cure without looking at. So when you mention reflection point, are you talking about looking inside and thinking
Exactly.
internally?
See, what happens with reflection is actually we all have intuition of some kinds. Like some people call it gut feeling, but it is just, it's inbuilt in us. And when we connect to this intuition or a gut build, what happens is we come up with new creative ideas. That's where creative comes from. So if you ask an artist, where does your ideas come from? He'll tell you, from my mind. But when I see something that triggers an interest point and then comes out this like an output. So we all should connect to our intuition so we could be allowed these creative ideas which could help us through this crisis right now.
When you first mentioned that reflection, I thought of the lockdown and being locked down. And once we were let out, so to speak, partial, I started walking because my gym was closed. And I realized that hour, 2 hours of walking gave me a chance to think things through for the day, give some thought to what's happening next week or future-wise, all those kinds of things. And it's become kind of a thing that I have to do every morning. And on the days that I don't do it, I feel somewhat lost.
It's like a ritual you have built, which is good, because reflection could be a ritual itself. Like, every morning at 6 or 5:30, whichever your time you decide, but it should be a habit. So this is a good habit because you are going into the nature and letting these energies come through you. So you could come up with these creative ideas, so which you could implement at your workspace, which is perfect. And sometimes being in a closed environment, like I hate gyms overall. I think the best gym is, like how you said, outdoors, because when you are able to go outside, even if you said, okay, not walking, you could be running outside, but in a way that sounds, seeing, smelling, all the senses are being allowed to.
All the senses, yes.
And that's what's allowing us to be fully in harmony with ourselves. And that's crucial for special leader, like senior leaderships, because we need to be in harmony. It cannot be that we brought stresses from other environments to work, because what happens is then we are not 100% focused for whatever objective or outcomes we seek.
I received an email this morning from a buddy of mine from New York. He's a senior level executive and he just got laid off. And he was trying to figure out, he was kind of musing back and forth. He was trying to figure out, I find the next job. Do I start it on my own? What do I do now? What suggestions would you give to a person who is possibly going through that? Maybe someone on the call is struggling now. Maybe they lost their job or lost a loved one or whatever it is. And they're trying to figure out what I tend to call 2.0, the next version of you.
It's best to start with exactly what kind of a passion you have. And also, I will also look at their age. Now, if somebody was 20 to 30, it's a very different energy. When you are 40 to 50, then there's another energy. So you really have to know, where do I stand? Now, am I a person who seeks safetyness? Like, whereas I need to make sure I generate an income, or do I have some capital set aside where I could ride out a period for 6 months to a year? And that capital could be easily put into some kind of a business or consulting kind of thing where I could actually teach other people how to improve themselves. That might be another avenue. But at the end of the day, again, like as I said earlier, it's all about reflecting, finding it from your inner calling. See, most people that I coach say they regret for whatever they are doing. So regret is something that we should observe and notice. Is that something we really enjoyed doing while we had the job or whatever we were doing? Or is there something else that we are passionate about? And it doesn't mean that you might do something even simpler that's a downgrade, but why not find something you really are passionate or you will enjoy doing, wouldn't that uplift your spirits throughout COVID-19? See, losing a job which might have stressed you out from 7 to 10 in the night, but now you are given this opportunity of finding something that's more enjoyable, which will also uplift your spirits. Wouldn't that be more nicer to do?
Yeah, because it's kind of like somebody giving you a clean slate and said, okay, now you can start over again.
Yes. So it's a blessing in a way. It's a blessing in disguise for your friend. So he has to see this through, that this is a blessing. Now, for whatever I might have not been given that opportunities in the past, now I am blessed with this clean slate, whereas I could take these steps to do something great.
So what about the person that's afraid? Because, in coaching, I get that a lot. People want to do things, and I talked with them today, and I talked with them in 6 months, and they're telling me the same thing again. I said, so what did you do since the last time we spoke? And I get a sense a lot of people are afraid. They talk a good game, but when it comes time to make a move or do something.
See, I believe a lot of people that we coach are not prepared to be coached. And, it's a good thing to do is to start with that some accountability, that if you do not perform according to whatever you have set your goals, we have two options. We continue and you modify that, or you let go and then maybe come to me again when you are more prepared. I tell all my clients that way, because a lot of people are not ready for coaching, but they still see coaching because maybe their companies are paying for it. So they say, why not? Okay. So I believe until there is no blood, or like how you said, some skin into the game.
Skin in the game.
Yeah. You are not going to do anything that is going to actually improve or uplift your, whatever journey that you have. And it's always great to do is start with the right questions with these people and see if they are the right mix for you. I know there are a lot of coaches who will take your money for anything, but at the end of the day, you don't want somebody going out there, oh, this person was unable to help us. And that bad mouth, in fact, ruins the whole reputation that you might have built.
Yeah. You mentioned in your documentation, you mentioned framework of creativity. Mm-hmm. How would that work for an individual, and then how would that work for an organization? Because organizations are kind of at the last stage of reimagining everything.
Exactly. So for an individual, what we would do is we will actually go back to their past and look at what kind of things have worked and what not worked for them. But see, not everybody is born to be creative. There are people who are born to just do certain things which are like regiment, like how people in the military, they are taking orders. But then as today's enterprises, we all are supposed to come up with these new creative ideas of survival, about thriving. So what happens in today's environment, you know better than me also, it's all about how do you recreate yourself so you can survive through these different loops. And that's what companies are seeking from individuals too. And how do you actually get that? It's trying to create a group which has loyalty and trust. See, creativity comes when we are able to communicate openly without any hesitation. So even the guy down in the maybe junior level position can come up and share his ideas with the more senior level. Because it doesn't mean that only people up there have the best ideas, because these people might be in the field, or what we call the frontline staff, are dealing with our customers. They might be knowing more of the problems, and they might be the ones who are solving our problems. Wouldn't it be nicer for them to come up with these suggestions versus somebody who never meets a client or never interacts? He's just presuming this is what works for Coca-Cola. Why don't I do it for my Pepsi?
So as if it scales across, which it doesn't.
Yeah. So I believe creativity should be started from the as lowest as possible position, and actually allowing it to have an open communication where everybody could share ideas. And these ideas are built into a system where, as a pool we could use. And we should be giving recognition to these people too. It's not like giving an idea and then not knowing who they are. Because obviously, how do you promote people up the ladder if you don't do that?
Yeah. I'm thinking of a term, psychological safety. So you mentioned teams, and they said one of the main dynamic for a high-performing team is to have that psychological safety.
That's it. So in a way, it is open communication and trust. But see, right now, a lot of companies are creating toxic environments, and the uncertainty is, do I have a job after today, not tomorrow even. Like a lot of people might get fired within today. Then what do they do? So companies really have to come up, and there are great companies out there like Marriott has done it. Okay, fine. Even the most senior leadership have let go of their salaries to make sure that the lower management is still getting paid. And we need to show that kind of sincerity as a leader. Now, most leaders have 10 or 15 million stored up somewhere. Does he really need to get another million this year just to make sure he could live in his more lavish home in the Hamptons or wherever he might have it? But see, the most people down there who have to pay their mortgages or their installments for their cars, they need something coming in. Otherwise, they'll be unable to survive.
So we took it from the leaders inside an organization. We discussed teams. What advice would you give, say, CEOs to kind of reimagine this new workforce? You know, people are coming back. If they come back, stress, depression, and all the other ills that are affecting the globe today.
I believe a leader should be the bright ball themselves, because a lot of leaders are in fact going through stress and anxiety. You can't lead a team if you are yourself going through stress or anxiety right now. So leadership should work on themselves before they go helping their people. If not, bringing professionals who can motivate the team might be a better objective right now. Because I know a lot of senior leaders themselves are going through difficult challenges. Obviously, letting go of people, furloughing people, whatever else they might be doing. Now a captain has to decide, do I sail into the wind or do I just let people jump ship right now? At least there's a better chance of surviving.
I told him, I remember a conversation I had with the manager. We were getting ready to go through some downsizing. It's amazing how these words, downsizing, redundancies and all. And I said, if you're able to sleep at night when you know that you have to lay people off the next day, if you're able to go to sleep that night and have a restful sleep, something's wrong. Maybe you should not be in this position, because from his thinking it's just a part of business, very technical kind of approach to that. But meanwhile, his people's lives are disrupted the following day.
See, what happens is a lot of leaders have been somehow placed in the wrong place. I tell them, you are in the wrong place at the wrong time. You have two options. You can, let's say, I want to resign and let somebody else come who might be more supportive and has more better ideas to survive through this current period. But see, now, I don't believe the word survive is right. Is how can we actually continue to thrive? Now, it's all about building culture right now. So it's all about how whatever team that we plan to keep and maintain, are these the people who we could count on for the long run? Are these the loyal ones? That I have worked with a company where as the employees actually put in the money for the company to go on.
Oh, really? Wow.
They actually put in like 10% of their salaries. So the company could actually continue paying even the people down at the bottom. And they already took a 50% cut of their salaries. But they believed the company had long-term future and they could ride this maybe for another 2 years. But not all companies can do this. And I believe...
And not all workers would be willing to do that.
Exactly. But see, that workers understood that in the long run, if we support our enterprise, we are now long-term partners. And they indirectly made them partners of the company. So they got a profit share, which was crucial for these people. And even let's say if they left the company, would they have an opportunity like this to continue on working? So in a way, that objective was placed in front of them. So most of them took the offer. There were a few that said, no, we can't do it. So then they gave them an option, take 2 months salary and go find something else that works for you. But that was the best they could do, because instead of laying off everybody because of those few selfish people, at least these people wanted to make sure that they could continue working for this great business.
Yeah, well, when you see people willing to do that, they have a sense of feeling that this is a great place to work. And it's good people, and we're all in this together. And that sense of ownership comes about. And so many organizations struggle to get to that point. We always hear the conversation now about having purpose. It was great if you had purpose coming into this, into COVID. It's hard to try and create a purpose now if you've mistreated people coming into the storm.
See, in a way, Ron, I like to share this idea also. See, there are two types of purpose. There's a self-purpose and there's a group-wide purpose. So obviously it's crucial to have a purpose for an individual, but when a company starts building a great team, we have to have a common purpose, whereas we are doing something good together as a team. And these are the companies that I believe will have a bright future from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. For all the enterprises that are still working in the old models that, that we have learned in most MBA schools are going to fail. And that's what the creative ideas are all about, is how do we strive from survival mode? Like, how do we move from the survival mode? Because if you can only survive, then you're not going to survive through this, because eventually some people will get hurt and they will fail. But how do we keep this culture of thinking going on, where we are thinking that this is all a one larger well-being for everyone? And even the senior leaders should be able to put some skin in it, like whereas they are willing to let go of their salaries just to make sure this whole ball can keep rolling for them.
Yeah. I interviewed a CEO for a major hospital here a few weeks back. Okay. And we were talking about this COVID experience. And one of the things he said, which stuck with me, is that he said, I take notes every day.
Very good.
At the end of every day, I reflect back on what happened that day, what was working, what was not working, what could I possibly change. He said, I've got a binder like this. And
it's like a gratitude journal for him.
Yeah. So, and his thought was that post-COVID, if there is such a thing, he sees there's a lot of opportunities there that he can take advantage of what people have exhibited during this period. Can you talk to that from a CEO's perspective? And this was a hospital, this was essential workers, but he took time to reflect each day.
See, whatever said and done, and most leaders could agree to this, actually being a CEO or a senior leader is the most lonely job there is. Because somewhat, most leaders have somewhat of an ego, that it's very hard for them to put it, somewhat, or most actually have a large ego, but at least even the most sincere servant kind of leader has an ego which he has to manage it once in a while. It's hard for them to go down to the most lower levels of people and say that, hey, I'm vulnerable too, I need help, I need ideas. So that is the vulnerability we have to let go of. That's actually what great leaders do. They listen more and do less. And what this person that you interviewed is doing is he's capturing all these ideas and then going through them process by process, like layering onion possible, and then coming to understand that this is what is the core need of my company. And that's how our team will stay united, because it's all about oneness and united team that is working together. And even hospital, in fact, I would say are in the best place at the best time right now, because obviously medical care is the most important thing, crucial thing out there.
You mentioned when I was in the introduction, linking meaning, connection, and contribution. Can you walk us through that framework?
Okay, so let's start with meaning.
Okay.
In a way, we must know why are we there at the workspace. Now, is it only about money? Is it about building up, climbing the ladder? Or are we there to change this? Like, how are we paying back to society? And if you look at companies that are out there that are growing and expanding, they have a solid meaning, which is a common meaning, whereas all the employees are looking at a larger common purpose where they want to achieve that or final outcome that they seek. So that's a meaning that I'm seeking here. Now, meaning could be as simple as satisfying the customer's needs, or how do we uplift lives, or what is the final objective here? Now, how are we going to do this on the triple bottom, whereas all stakeholders are happy, where of course the people that are working are getting paid properly, people who have invested in a company, how are we giving back to society? So companies like Microsoft or Google, they do have programs, but of course I can't say they are perfectly online where they should be, but they are companies that are going towards that, whereas they feel that they must have a triple bottom line where all stakeholders are benefiting from this whole equation. The more we can offer back to society, the more loyalty that will build. And if you look at how the current employees are, they all are coming to gain experience. They want workspaces to be providing them experience and also have meaning in the sense that they know they are not harming their environment. It's more like a longer picture, whereas they're giving back to society, so we could keep growing that way. So that's where the meaning comes from. Okay. Now, in the contribution space, it's about how can we give back for all the gifts we have been given. So let's say if an enterprise made $10 billion, or let's go smaller even, like $100 million. Now, are we going to just split this amongst the people that work there? Or are we going to take maybe a 10% cut of this, like maybe 10 million, and give back to society, but by training people, like giving back to them and building goodwill, because goodwill is crucial here. You know, it's not like only just having a CSR statement saying we do so and so and that's it. So not superficial dressing up kind of thing, but actually taking the opportunity to give back to society.
So you mentioned the CSR statement, and you know, you look at companies, and I saw this when there's a lot of discussion in the US today about diversity and inclusion, and these companies come out with these great statements. But then again, you could have gone back 2 months ago and looked on their website, and they had all the right words then.
Exactly.
But you look internally, and they weren't doing those things. So it comes back to like talk is cheap.
Yeah, correct.
You know, what are you doing beyond that? So one of the things you mentioned, the triple bottom line. Now that wasn't in a financial context.
Yeah.
And that kind of threw me. So that triple bottom line, can you elaborate a little more on that?
Okay. So the triple bottom line starts with this. Obviously, companies must make profits. It's not like I'm saying businesses should lose money so they can survive longer. We are not talking about .com companies that are out there. But the whole idea is we must look beyond just profits for the people working in the company. It has to be, of course, the stakeholder who's invested in our businesses, so like stockholders or whatever other people might invest in. But we must also look beyond, like, how can we give back to society? In the sense, giving back to communities from the excessive profit that we are making. No business needs $10 billion profit at the end of the year and then just give it back to the employees, or the CEOs getting maybe a big chunk of that. There's only so much that should be done in that sense that we all could benefit in the longer picture. So right now we have companies that are even bigger than most countries' GDP. So these companies should find ways of integrating all their resources and giving back to society so we could uplift people all around the world.
You mentioned another key point. You said, you know, climbing the ladder, the meaning that why you're out of the job. Why are you there? Are you there to make more money? Are you there to move up the ladder?
I'm talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. It's all about uplifting that way, because even Barrett's values model, which I am a certified trainer for, it's all about how do we move beyond our basic needs. And once we have covered all our basic needs, how do we want to grow up in the spiritual ladder? Or Maslow calls it hierarchy of needs, because once our needs are satisfied, we seek meaning and purpose. And that's what I'm here, you know, like I believe most senior leaders are already above the fourth level on the hierarchy of needs, where their needs are covered, they have more than they need, they are comfortable, they should move on to the level 5 and 6 and 7s where they could be actually becoming more of a servant leader, giving back to society instead of taking from them.
Yeah, that's hard to do if you still have a fixed mindset from eons ago.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it's very hard to change my father from this, because my father has a thing, I get the buck. If I have extra, okay, I'll give a little bit back. That's how it is. You know, I can't change the people, because and I can't blame them, because they have struggled in different ways. Today's generation, or let's say the people of our age of 40, 45, 50 or 55 has seen life very differently. But if you look at people who are 70, 75 right now, they'll tell you, I had to even fight for a piece of bread. So I don't blame me for doing this.
Yeah, because it's based on the context. Well, you know, when we talk about a topic like that, I think of leaders inside of organizations, and they're pushing people for what they perceive as meaning. Like, I may be pushing you to be promoted to a regional head. Maybe I don't want to be a regional head. So from a career perspective, I think that's important what you said, because we've all got to figure out, what do we want to be? What do we want to be? So I call it, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's the 2.0 version? If you think this is 1.0, what is 2.0?
Mhm.
And lots of people I've talked to during this period, what's going to be next for you? If you make it through this, what will you do next?
Yeah. It's a very good question to ask. Like even for being speakers like us now, how long can we actually do virtual presentations?
Yes.
You know, because we are people that get energized when we see 500 people, 1,000 people in the audience, because somehow we talk very differently. But now doing these virtual conferences where we pretend we are talking to a lot of people,
Yeah.
but the energy is not there. So there's not that, hype now. So that's why I've seen a lot of virtual speakers right now. I don't feel that the spirit is there, like that's missing. And there's only so much we could do through a screen. We are not Tony Robbins, that you can make a clone of us and then put it anywhere. We are people who need people.
So that's a transition model. So you think about workers' transition model, but for people like us, you're self-employed, and you're transitioning to a totally new model from what you were doing maybe 6 months ago.
Exactly.
So we've been kind of pushed into that same as the kind of worker.
Yeah, correct. So we are evolving as needed, and that's good, because if we don't have the talent to evolve, we will die. It's like death is coming for us, whether maybe not physical death, but physical death, or whatever work death is coming up. So at least we are trying to find ways in a way survive. But I think most speakers have thrived from this already. In fact, now you're allowed to speak to many more people anywhere in the world. So we are no longer only specialists for those few districts. Now you could do a conference in the US without anything. I'm sitting here, I have my equipment ready, and here I go. Only time-wise is different, but I'm fine, So in a way, I feel a lot of people are benefiting from this virtual speaking.
Yeah. And the revenue is different.
But it's okay, See, we still are making money, which is good, because I feel bad for those people who, because they can't go to work, they can't get money for it, So we have found an avenue which is still paying us, and we could do many more conferences right now, whereas it took us 2 or 3 days to do one. Now we don't have to fly, so we could do 3 conferences a day in the 3 different time zones, and we are still good.
Well, when you think of conferences, like when we were in Mumbai, you came in the day before, you were there that day, you spoke maybe that evening or the next day. That was 2 or 3 days you were inside of a conference in another country. Now you just come in and where you need to come in and you can produce from here.
Yeah, exactly. Like how we're going to speak in Mumbai next week, but virtually,
Yeah,
so,
right. We're both on the same.
Yeah, correct. So I'm the final keynote speaker of the day. So I have to make sure these people who have gone through a whole day of virtual conferencing where they are sitting in front of a screen, will they be able to enjoy what I'm going to share? So I have to really make sure it adds so much value that they all want to listen to me. And that's what I was going through this morning, like what kind of title can I be, a catchy title that I can offer that they want to listen to me and forget everybody else in that company.
I think I got a better slide. I think I'm at 2:30 in the afternoon, somewhere
that's
around
good.
there.
So you're right in the middle, which is not bad.
So that works, but that's kind of right after the so-called proverbial lunch. So, going forward, what kind of advice would you offer workers today? And they're kind of in the 3rd stage of beginning to come back into the office, whatever model that their company is going to design. So from that vantage point, and what would you offer to CEO and leadership? So I want you to take it in that context. What could you offer the worker? And then what can you offer the leader to coach them to offer the worker?
Correct.
To build that environment.
So for those people who are what we call the workers down there, going back to work, it's all about adding value. Because if you don't add value, most chances are that you will be losing your job soon. Because companies are looking for ways that they could trim down people. And generally, better than me, the senior leadership is the last one to leave, because they could take up those jobs that are in the bottom too. And somehow they have a higher say than these people that are down. So look at how British Airways is firing crew first, then gradually moving up to the pilots, because they are the most expensive people that they need. Same thing with Qantas and all that. So it's all about adding value. Now, what more can you do than the job you were doing before? And it's best to inform your team leader or your team manager, whoever that you are reporting to, that I have acquired the following new skills. Because in the last 3, 4, 5 months, we have had beautiful courses out there which have been offered for free from all the leading colleges. So as an employee, I hope you took the opportunity to take up new skills which you can now show off to your team leaders or team managers that can support and actually improve the workflow for this individual at work. And that's what I feel is very crucial. And quite a few have done that, and they will be the ones that will have a job for sure. Now, again, coming to the middle management, where the team leaders or team managers, what are you going to do differently? Now, the whole idea is creating loyalty amongst your people down, because you know who you can depend on and those who might not be actually key ingredients of your bigger picture, then you might have to find ways to trimming that down, because senior leadership is looking at ways how they could cut cost. So these people in the middle are actually crucial facilitators between the bottom and the top. So providing a list to your senior management, these people could be easily let go if needed to. So I know it's a harsh thing to say, but that's how companies are functioning right now. And then again, coming up to the senior leadership is now looking at back downwards, like which team leaders are actually team players that we can count on, even when we have to take drastic changes, where we have to trim down people, because at the end of the day, it's more important the company survives versus people survive, because at the end of the day, it's all about cost cutting. And it's harsh. Harsh, but this is the reality of life.
It's the reality of life. And, on LinkedIn every day, I get these stories and stories and stories. And I wish there was something I can do. I offer to, review their CVs, review their profiles, so I can just give something back,
And that's what we could do as human beings. I believe human relationships are crucial here right now, because if we can show support, and as earlier I mentioned, compassion is what's needed right now. I know people are not seeking money, but they need somebody to uplift their spirits, to see beyond. I know there are quite a few people who are negative about this whole phase of life, but there are quite a few who are optimistic. So we should keep encouraging people to look beyond their past, look at what they could do from now onwards. As I said earlier, there are beautiful courses out there which are being offered for free. It's best to acquire new skills. So even if you are let go of your current job, so you have other pathways waiting for you, because there are skills where people are still hiring for, even through COVID-19. So doing that homework and finding out what's needed out there, because everybody wants agile stuff. Everybody's talking about resilience. So acquiring these kind of skills and putting that on your CV will improve. And the whole idea is, do not limit the kind of jobs you seek. Be more flexible. Tell them that the following 4 or 5 or 6 things that you have these skills for. Let the company decide where they want to place you. Don't say, I am a manager for so and so only. So we have to no longer be specialists, but more be a generalist. And that's the kind of jobs that are available. You have to be general enough for the company to move you around, so you could actually continue receiving a salary.
You mentioned, manage, the word manage. So my no words is manage, administrator of.
Okay.
So my thought is those words don't carry any value. But if I say I created, I developed, those are stronger words on a CV, stronger words on a profile, because I can get anyone to manage something if the process is already there. But I'm looking for someone to come in and maybe look at the process and say, there's a better way we can do this.
Exactly. So be the problem solver. Don't be the problem. Because at the end of the day, most companies are not looking for problems. See, if you're coming with a limited mindset, so whereas you are not the person who can learn new skills while at the job, you're not going to have a job long enough. Because companies are now increasing the period of retention from 6 to even 1 year. So they have the option to let you go. So how guaranteed, what kind of reassurance you have that you will have a job even after 6 months? So at the end of the day, make sure whatever jobs you're applying for, you have the right skills. So there's no point of jumping ships, just trying to get an income, because it will not look good on your CV that you only work for a company for 2 months, because that's not what they're seeking. They're really looking for people who can solve problems. So be the problem solver.
Yeah. Well, that comes back to that first step when you were walking through that framework. Is that what do you want to be when you grow up? Is it just because of a salary that you're there, or is it because of climbing the ladder? And I think one of the dynamics that really kind of frustrates that is that, you know, leaders sometimes push people towards things. I remember having a conversation with my daughter, and we were talking about career growth. And I told her, I said, well, your next level should be X, Y, Z. She says, I don't want a next level. I want to continue doing what I'm doing. I'm happy doing that. I don't want to manage a team of people, which from my mindset and from my career, it was totally opposite to that, because I wanted to keep moving up that so-called proverbial ladder.
Like, you know, we both come from a period where it was all about growth, and growth meant success, and growth meant success, which will also generate income, which we could save up for our old age. But today's generation, like my two young children, my son's 25 and my daughter is 16, their thinking is all very different. It's not about survival anymore. It's all about thriving. How do I learn new skills on the run? And their whole thinking is very different. So we clash on these ideas, but in a way I learn also, because we are guiding companies on this kind of age set too. Like, how do these people think? So it's great that we have children who we could reflect on and then pass and share these ideas back to the companies we consult with.
Yeah, you know, you're right about that, because that's a dual learning strip, because I'm learning from her and my son, and hopefully they're learning from me, you know, but I find I get more from their side and listen to their views on things than I do from my side, because it causes me to question some of my framework.
Exactly. So I that's what I tell all senior leaders. Listen, you might not have the best idea. Listen as much as possible. Then go back, reflect on it. See what did you hear that resonates with you from your experience. So it's all about your experience and idea putting together, so that has more assurity that will work, versus just taking an idea and not putting your experience. So experience with the idea works hand in hand. It cannot be like, because a lot of younger people, what we call the creative people, they don't actually put the whole equation in, but they just throw the idea. But at the end of the day, seniority comes with experience. It has tried and tested things that work and did not work, and that's what's needed. So that connection makes it successful.
You know what? Another question I wanted to ask you: the happy doctor. Someone sent me a note on LinkedIn last night that says, "Oh my God, you're interviewing Dr. Suresh, the happy doctor." How did the happy doctor come about? How did you get that so-called? Where I come from in the U.S., they call that nickname. How did that come about? That nickname of the happy doctor.
So what happened is, I wrote a book called The Miserable Millionaire.
Okay.
And so that's how.
Was that based on you at that time?
Yeah. So the whole idea is, how can a miserable person become happy, and how could that person reflect those ideas back to individuals everywhere? So what happened is, I worked with a company which had a major toxic work environment, and in 6 or 9 months after that I worked with them, the whole team was working very differently. And then they started saying, "Oh, finally all the toxicity is gone. Thank you, happy doctor." Because I had a PhD, and said, why not call him the happy doctor? And that's how the name came about. I didn't even create the name. Somehow these people decided that somehow happiness came through, that we needed like the injection, of love, compassion, this whole artistic kind of image, because at the end of the day, we should add our core values that we have within us, even in the work environment. Because a lot of companies consider work as a very dry, systematic kind of a thing. But in today's world, I feel we need to be a larger group of individuals placing great, attachments, because we spend so much time at work. In fact, most people spend more time in work than at home. So it would be nice to make work like a home for these people, so they actually want to be there before even we are supposed to. I have companies where people are supposed to report at 9, but people show up at 7:30 because they want to be in that community, which is supportive and encouraging. And they don't even go home, because what they're doing is they're having dinner and even going home. So it's all about that kind of a culture, which is all about like a team. We are, this is our home. Home is just for sleeping.
Mm. Well, I tend to ask people sometimes, I ask them from a US perspective, TGIF. Everybody pretty much knows what that is.
Okay.
And depending upon the geographical region I'm in, I'll say, what is TGIS? Thank God it's Sunday for
Sunday,
us.
yeah, for us.
Here. Thank God it's Monday. And you get this kind of laugh across the room because people don't really look forward to that. So they're doing something. They really, really don't look forward to doing it. And I said, if you can ever get up in the morning and you look forward to going to work and doing what you're doing, it's not work anymore.
Yeah, it's pleasure. And that's what we need to do, because best work comes from when people are coming to work with that excitement, because it's all about excitement. Am I excited to go to work? And there are companies out there, and some companies that I work with, where Monday is the best day for them, because people are rested, because they don't work Saturday, Sunday. That is the day, those days are set for reflection with the family, spend family time. No work is allowed. Monday, they come refreshed, all excited, and they actually create different days for different things. So it's like a theme. Monday is a theme, Tuesday is a theme. I'm not allowed to share some of these themes because they have proprietary things on it. But like Monday is so and there, Tuesday is so and so, Wednesday. So people come excited because they know this is a pizza day. So today we must go and get, like all these kind of different things take place. So all excitement creates, or they all dress up in a certain color. So, they make sure that the team effort is always placed at work. It's all about a team, a larger family, that we all seeking the same thing, and we are there to support one another at any crisis. So people losing family members or losing money, that team works in a way to support their needs. So nobody feels outside, they are part of the team. And they choose those people. I don't know if you read the book also, Delivering Happiness. It's the same thing. It's all about the Zappos team kind of thing, where everybody coming, and they let go of people that are not team players, because if you don't have the same mindset, you are not going to survive in that company. It's all about working on a larger family basis.
Well, I tell people, I look forward to Sundays. I look forward to coming to work. And I'm almost this may sound crazy, I'm almost kind of glad when Saturday is over, Saturday evening is over, that I can come in and go to work. But if you look at my career, that's in the last portion of my career that I got to that point. So that takes a while to get there. But if you begin thinking now about the next version of you, you're making a step towards that. That's my views on it.
Yeah, I can't say your job might be perfect now, but build up to that. Like when you were working for IBM or other companies you might have worked, how excited were you when you went to work? And that's crucial. But now for those who have lost jobs or feel they have the opportunity of seeking new employment, why not look through that and see what do you seek? Like what kind of workspace are you looking for? And there are great companies out there in every country to work for. And they are hiring talent because they are looking for like-minded people, because a company can only succeed is when they have the right mix of team members. And you should be considered a family member, not a employee, because employee is an employee. Family member is a family member. So you can see that you can count on people. So if ever you went through any difficulties, you could actually go and talk to somebody and be able to release it. So you don't need psychiatrists or that. Like there's a company called Tyson, Food Tyson.
Tyson Foods, yes.
Yeah. So I was with the CEO, and the first thing he told me that we actually have a chaplain, a person that actually listens. It's not a counselor, it's somebody who has a spiritual background, who could reflect with you and go through this. And I said, that's a great novel idea. Why don't more companies do it? So most people that work for Tyson have worked there for 10, 15, 20 years. So they have that kind of loyalty where people are there to grow together and even retire when they retire from the company. Wouldn't that be nice for most companies? It would be nice to have these diligent people who know exactly what they're doing and even growing and expanding the company even bigger.
My gentleman I worked with years ago is now the chief marketing officer for Tyson Foods.
Oh, okay. So he's back in that Fayetteville.
Yeah. So, and I see some of the posts that he put online from time to time, and I can kind of get a sense of what he's talking about, that it's a good place to work. We haven't had conversations in a long time, but I can kind of get a sense of what he's posting what he's feeling about and working in that environment. And see, that's the thing, it kind of comes through. You don't have to make a big banner about it, but in the ways that you talk about what you're say struggling with or what your company is doing, you feel a sense of pride,
exactly.
as a result of that.
And see, what's important right now is these same employees are now your message, your branding. They are reflecting on other people. It's a great place to work. If you feel that you can bring these talents into this talent pool that we seek, you also be considered as a valued member. And that's what's crucial here. And that's what Tyson is doing. Even though it's in a small town, which is besides also Walmart's headquarters there, but Walmart's very different from Tyson. Both companies that generate huge incomes, but the respect the Tyson Group gets versus the Walmart family is very different.
Yeah, Dave Zucker was his name. Matter of fact, I'm going to send him a note right after our session today. So Dr. Suresh Devnani, thank you so much for being a guest on the CEO series. It's good to see you again personally, from a personal standpoint. And thank you for giving our audience some insights, because as I said, everyone's struggling. If someone wants to get in touch with you, can you kind of give us your email address or whatever you want to share?
Okay. So my website is sureshdevnani.com. It's spelled SURESHDEVNANI.com. And for those who need to connect with me directly, you could also connect with me through my email address is happiness@sureshdevnani.com. And otherwise, just go to my website. There's even a WhatsApp link. So you could send me a message from there. So it saves you time and hassle. So send me a WhatsApp message. I do look at my WhatsApp quite regularly. So I'll definitely connect with you right after that. Or you could find me on LinkedIn as well, under my name as well, Suresh Devnani. And that'd be great. Thank you. I'm looking forward to connecting with you.
Okay. Dr. Suresh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay.